Oh, okay.
All right. Oh, look out here now, Miss. Who are you? No,
Oh,
I'm
you
kidding.
know me.
Hey,
You know me, brother Phil. Antoinette McDonald
so
Ellis.
blessed to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, this is the infamous, she's
Oh,
not just here. This is the darling, very prolific Mrs. Antoinette McDonald Ellis. Welcome, then, Antoinette. This is the first of hopefully several encounters of this kind we will have. You and other guests that will come on, because my goal is to really engage the members on I Am Creation Stroke Survivor Support Group Dallas to really get involved, sharing and helping each other learn and unlearn behavior and things like that. So I'm really, really, really excited to have you here this morning.
well, thank
So
you
how are you
so
doing?
much. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to do this endeavor with you. I think this is
Absolutely.
exciting. I just want to
Yeah,
say publicly and on the record, I love you, and I'm so happy to see the progress that you have made, my brother. Uh,
thank you. Thank
that's,
you. I
that's
love you back.
well,
Or
thank
as I like to say, I love you black.
right here, right here. You
Yes,
know,
yes, yes, yes.
I was pleased to see you when you started the site, so I was like, I'm going to go ahead and jump on this and
Mhm.
come out of the closet, if you will, because as you said, we've known each other
Yes,
for more years than I will say, because people start doing the
yes,
math.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Don't start, never won't be
Yeah, well, that's right. That's
that.
right. But you know, the fact that you were unaware, and it was kind of one of those things you don't kind of walk up, hi, I'm Antoinette. I've survived an
Mhm.
aneurysm. You know,
Ooh,
that tends not to bring friends, you know.
I don't know how well they would have played out uh,
Say
at
again?
that. I don't know how well they would have played out at that
Yeah,
time, had that happened that way. But
yeah.
I would have never ever known. Antoinette, seriously, all kidding aside, it amazes me still, knowing the fact that you have come all that way, all of this way, to sit here looking as lovely and composed as you are.
Thank you.
That's a blessing. That's a major, major blessing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a lot of our viewers are, are still struggling with just the aftermath of having, had stroke or aneurysm, whichever that occurred. And so I'm really excited to hear your sharing of perhaps some of that experience, what got you through, what happened, what kind of event it was. Any of that you'd like to share would be incredible.
Well, thank you, Gil, for offering this platform. And first, let me say, I'm a longtime survivor, so hopefully my experience can aid someone or just encourage someone. And I just want it to be known that I am no expert except in that I have lived this. I realized
Absolutely.
I realized the other day after you and I had spoken initially that in my life, I have lived longer as a survivor of this type of event than I had
Wow.
before this type of event.
Glory, glory.
And so, I mean, here's the thing: you can go on to live a wonderful, creative life, and I am blessed to
Yes.
have been able to do so. And
Praise God. That's wonderful.
yeah, and
That
so
is
I,
so.
I encourage you. But one of the things, okay, now here we go. Here's the thing. One of the things I'm not good at is technical things. So we're going to
Right. That's
try
okay.
to
Me either.
and I prepared just like a little sheet because one of the things I want to do initially is really kind of define the actual differences between a stroke
Yes.
and an
Between a
aneurysm,
stroke
which I suffered.
and
So
an
let's
aneurysm.
okay,
Absolutely.
so let's see if we can do this, Gil. Pardon me, I'll remove my glasses so I can actually see.
Okay.
So let's see if we can do this. I know we can't because we just did. We
Yes.
can do all things.
We can do what? I say
All,
that
you
was my
know,
all day long.
that's right. And so again, hey,
Okay.
look at
Yeah.
me.
Oh,
Can you
see?
see that? All right,
That's a
Lord,
powerful thing.
all things.
That
So
is
first of all, and I put this up on screen too, because sometimes people learn in different ways. So a stroke occurs when there's a disturbance in the blood supply to the brain. So,
Mm,
that could be caused by a blockage due to calcium, cholesterol, any number of things.
yes. In
Yeah.
my case, it was cholesterol.
Okay. See, there you go. There you go. And an aneurysm, on the other hand, is a bulge in the blood vessel, which can cause the vessel to rupture. And that then leads to the bleeding in the brain, which is also a disruption of blood in the brain. And that's why, they're both kind of the same in that way, because the effect of your brain having the blood loss is what causes the actual stroke via aneurysm
Yes,
symptoms.
yes.
And one thing I've learned throughout my life is often the words are interchangeable, but I just wanted to point out, since this is about stroke information, really the differences, because even doctors sometimes will interchange the terms. And so
Yes,
I'm
yes.
trying to do, again, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm
Right.
trying to have like easy explanation. And I don't want y'all to think, this is my information, because also on the screen, you see I've posted where I got this information from. So, people can feel free to go and research it more.
Searching for themselves,
Right.
absolutely. Because this is this is truly information for educational purposes
Right.
first.
Right.
Because we never want to forget about getting professional physicianal help.
Right.
If you're
Right.
having a crisis. But these kind of things will help as references and reminders,
Right.
sort of a checklist so we can have it home.
Right.
So this is
And-
great.
And here's the thing, anyone can have an aneurysm and or a stroke.
Yes.
So I feel it's important that we have conversations that aren't touted in the doctor's jacket, because I know when we get to the doctor's office, we always leave and go, man, I should have told him about,
Right.
this elbow that's been hurting. Or, you have to go to another specialist to talk about a different issue, or please don't get me talking about that. So let's get back on point.
Okay.
So,
You're good.
yeah, thank you. And so I decided to also show some of the differences. And one of the things I wanted to point out too, a stroke, the symptoms occur, but not all of these symptoms occur for everyone. So I just wanted to point that out. But in aneurysm, these symptoms really only occur after the aneurysm physically bursts in your head.
See, I didn't know that.
Right. And something else about an aneurysm is they can be detected before the burst, unlike a stroke. Now, you might be aware that you have, as you said, a cholesterol issue. So you're aware of that.
Yeah.
But so let's just kind of go through quickly. And again, we're kind of talking through this. So speak up when you say, yeah, I got that, or no, I didn't, or we can talk about the differences or how we've experienced them. And then we can put this screen away and just chat about it.
Yes, absolutely.
So for a stroke, there's a sudden and intense headache. For the aneurysm, it was described as the worst headache of your life, and I can attest to that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, sir. Again, a stroke, numbness or tingling on one side of the face or the body. I see, I'll skip one there. For an aneurysm, numbness on one or both limbs, which I kind of experienced. Stroke, dizziness, aneurysm, vomiting. I did not experience the vomiting though, so yeah, yay for me. Weakness in your arms for a stroke, your arms or legs or face, especially on one side. And then for the aneurysm, says weakness in one or both limbs.
Yeah.
Okay. For a stroke, you have trouble with balance or coordination. For the aneurysm, you experience memory loss. With a stroke, confusion can occur.
Organs,
Yeah, and with the aneurysm, nausea. Now, I did experience the nausea, but not the vomiting. I guess I shouldn't talk about that so much. And then with the stroke, there's language issues and slurring of words, whereas with the aneurysm, not so much.
Interesting, because now looking at the stroke symptoms, I had none of them, zero. I even waiting for them to examine me in that room, I felt like I could hurdle trees.
Yes, you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and then the only thing that happened that made me a little concerned was that I started to notice that my speech was really, I sound like I had been drinking wine all day, you know? And so there was a nurse in the room. I said, nurse, I called her name, I don't remember. I said, is my speech slurry? And she became very concerned. Yes, long story short, they were able to get me into the room and deal with me immediately, which
Wow.
I know helped the what am I trying to say? It helped save some of the uh, urgency of that stroke. It could have been massive from what I was told.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm lying there feeling like Gilbert, ice, please. No pain, nothing. So go on, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just going to pull the rest of this up to show
Mhm.
everyone where, again, they can get more of this information so that we can then, close this screen down because it's not
Right,
a
right.
lesson. So, yeah, no. And here's the thing I've learned. Okay, let me see if we can do this. Yeah, here's the
Hey,
thing I've
hey.
learned. Everyone is an individual, and I think you were fortunate that you were where you were at that time. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, medical folks, they study it and they see, okay, these are the different symptoms. But as I said, everyone is different because some of the symptoms I experienced with the aneurysm, some of them I did not. But we're really here to, talk about, okay, so now with that in mind, recognizing that post-stroke, post-aneurysm, and for the sake of this conversation, we'll just say stroke because otherwise, yeah.
It
Uh,
sounds like we're talking about, and we are sort of talking about two different things, but the parallel
right,
yeah.
right. And it's about what happens next.
Yes,
And they say
yes,
aneurysm or stroke survivor because when you look at the statistics, which I really don't want to, they're frightening.
they are very frightening.
It's a life-changing event. Even in that moment, like you said, you still felt like Super Gil. Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, I still think you are Super Gil because
Thank you.
every step is that step. And
Yeah.
the one thing you posted on the page, which I did not reply to just because, life gets a little crazy and busy.
Mhm.
But you asked, what is one of the things that helps people, go through this on a daily basis, helps you
Yes.
stay inspired? And I thought about that and reflected back on something that Arthur Ashe said years ago, the famous tennis player,
Okay.
rest in peace. He
Yeah.
said, take what you have, or start where you are, take what you have, and do what you can.
But
Or
can you say a little, just a bit about who Arthur Ashe was for the babies? They may.
for the baby. He was a great Black tennis player based out of Philadelphia,
Yes.
Pennsylvania. And when he became a famous tennis star, he did give back to his community. He started, and they're still there. I lived there several years ago, and I still saw the Arthur Ashe tennis complex.
Oh, okay, right on.
But he also has now passed. And I don't really want to discuss that, but his mantra, and I think I misquoted him, so it's kind of a parallel, but start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can is the basic mantra. And every day, you wake up, and if you have nothing else that seems to be doing anything, hey, you woke up.
Hey, hello, let's start there.
Let's start right there. You woke up.
Yeah, I hear you. Yes.
That's not promised, right? Right. So you start there. If that's all you got today, well, fine. Then that's what's going to take you through today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's wonderful. Yeah, because even on the site where I'm a member of, I think, 3 different support groups, which I'm excited about because I had to find something,
right.
and we'll go a little further because Antoinette has a very a unique situation going on underneath all of her survival. And I want to be sure to accent that so that we don't miss what that strength and that power is. It's very important. And it's very parallel to what we're talking about.
Yes.
So now, so Senator, let's get happening. No, I was saying some comments which are very, I love that people are not afraid to talk about what's really going on when they're in a safe environment, that they feel safe, they feel at home, they feel that they're surrounded with people who are really listening, people who really want them to be at their best. Yes. But some of the comments that I've read gives me a little pause in that we on I Am Creation Stroke Support Group, I want to be very careful how we navigate the responses, because I believe that there's a way to talk about things, get the information and move forward. And then there's another thing that keeps us churning through the same, if you will, on that hamster wheel kind of attention. Yeah. And the strength, I think, is in having a few really key points of information given, taking that, digesting it through our own instrument, and then utilizing it, just like we did in the rehab. It's a daily process that never changes.
Right.
But if we keep, and it's not easy for all of us, we all process differently.
Oh yeah.
But if we are able to move, even if it's a centimeter every day forward, it makes it a little easier. And that emotional level changes, which is why I love this woman, because she has so much of that experience in her. Okay, shut up, Gilbert. I don't know why I went there, Antoinette, but I did.
Like I said, but about I love it. No, but I'm, I was nodding in agreement with what you were saying, Gil, because that is correct. We do need a forum. We do need a safe space. As I mentioned, mine happened years ago. So this is kind of a new kind of cool thing. Plus I was very young when I had my aneurysm, which, may be why, and I know you kind of alluded to.
Blows me. I went, wait, back up. Amazing. She's always had a halo, obviously. Because look at, it's amazing. I really was over the moon when you shared that with me. I gasped out loud.
Wow.
I really did. Wow. I really did. Because it was like, well, no, come on, stop playing.
Well, here's the thing. I guess, if anyone had asked, I would have said it, but I was 19 years old when I had my aneurysm, and in a lot of ways, because there weren't forums like this, I didn't really have anyone to really truly talk through my experience with, right? Yeah. And especially at first, one of the symptoms was the memory loss. And I got to tell you, at first, it was a very short-term memory loss. So, for example, we'd be having a conversation and I'd loop back around to the front, really asking the questions, really wanting the answers that we had just discussed. So that was, part of the first part of my process. But even at 19, part of it too was, to use a term, I was kind of closeted. I didn't really want to be that person that was different at 19.
Right. Oh, I hear you. I can understand that.
Right. So I worked really hard to kind of keep that couched, if you will. But here's the thing, and you said something that, and Gil, like I said, we've known each other for longer than I will admit, which is a good thing. But I always felt like as soon as people looked at me, they could immediately see the big scar, the literal physical scar on my head. And when people come back to me years later and say, no, I never even noticed a scar. Here's the thing, we look at the mirror, right, we look in the mirror and we see that which is not, correct or not right. And after a while, I started carrying my scar, whether you saw it or not, as a the point of pride. Look,
Mm.
I did survive that.
See,
Uh,
and
every
that's
day.
very, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Everyone has to understand
Mhm.
that you have survived. Now there are adjustments.
Oh yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
people. Some of us have to really, really, really make adjustments. And it's hard. It's never easy. But
Oh
you
no.
survived it. You're here.
Yeah.
So every day, I challenge all survivors to find something that you can hold on to, enjoy, and in some semblance of peace and love. It's
Right.
very important. We must surround ourselves with that, even if we have to give it to ourselves. Be a party of one, be a symphony of one.
And sometimes that's what it's gonna be. But you got to be there for you.
Right, right. Yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Antoinette,
Yes.
so you were 19,
Mhm.
you experienced the aneurysm,
Yeah.
which was the actual bleeding. I mean, something, the vessel erupted
Yes, it erupted in
in,
my brain.
in your brain. So
Behind.
now, see, I had a ischemic, is that how to say the word? Ischemic. Uh, there goes those lips. Ischemic, I think this is what you said. I have it somewhere here. Let me look it.
See, I don't know that one, so I can't help you on that one.
Yeah, I got it. But anyway, I had systemic. That doesn't even sound right. But I had the non-bleeding
Mm.
uh, episode in my brain. So
Okay.
I have a question here relating to uh, having gone through the bleeding process and all of that. That didn't happen with, say, my experience of having the stroke.
Right.
Is it the same or is it similar processing of dealing with that emotionally? Because there were a lot of I can imagine that there must have been so much uncertainty
Yeah.
that was involved in that whole dealing with something that severe and
Yeah.
that young.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of uncertainty. First of all, at 19, certainly interestingly, I had heard of an aneurysm. My
Mhm.
grandmother had a stroke, so I was aware of these conditions,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I was 19, I was healthy,
Yeah.
hadn't acquired my bad habits yet, you know,
Right.
um, and so it was a total surprise. So there was a lot of uncertainty. And when it did burst, it was a very interesting, and I say interesting just in that from my perspective, what I was physically going through and dealing with at that moment
Mhm.
time. It was as though, because I know exactly where I was at a water park of all places,
Right.
when the Texas water park.
And how deep was the water? That's interesting to me.
I was in a 16-foot pool because it was the slide that kind of is a chute and it drops you out and then you splash down. And then they had this island in the middle that you could swim to, or you could swim back to the edge and get out. But the island in the middle had like a juice bar or something. It was a cool spot because only the good swimmers could get
Mhm.
there,
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and so
That
it
is
was
an
actually,
amazing thing because even going through that trauma, something in your human spirit kept
Mhm.
you moving, going right on to make sure that you were clear of that water
Yeah.
and that you were able to get the help that you needed. I it amazes me. It
Yeah.
amazes me the power of the human spirit, the power of the mind.
Mhm. Yeah, because I mean, I remember thinking, okay, something's not right, and just focusing at the ladder because it shines in the light.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and so I was swimming on the bottom for a minute, and then I just swam towards that. And I remember my brother reached over and he pulled me out, and then I physically passed out in his lap.
Mm,
Um, and that's when it had burst.
wow.
And now, again, different than your experience,
Yes.
partially due to the bleed and the
Mhm.
fact that I was at a water park, and these young lifeguards weren't prepared to really, handle an emergency like this. They had assumed, I guess, that it was a heat stroke.
Uh, uh,
I finally ended up, after being sent home, to I finally ended up in Dallas at the Presbyterian Hospital.
mhm.
I was in a coma for 23 days while the hemorrhaging was going on. And at that point, I'm certain my family was touch and go. They didn't know if I was going to wake up. And if I did, they didn't know if I'd be able to, recognize anybody, form language. They didn't know. So finally, I obviously did wake up, or this is a really fabulous dream. I choose to believe I woke up. And then they had to wait actually to do the surgery because the bleeding continued. When they finally did the surgery, again, it was all very touch and go. Now, mind you, this was back in 1980 something. We'll just say
Right. So they were still, certain things were still experimental.
right.
So,
Right.
if you will, to some degree, you are a living miracle. You
Yeah.
are you are, when I call people earth angels, Antoinette, you are an earth angel.
That's right.
Well,
It's not always easy.
yeah, I believe that you're sharing and just the genuine love that radiates from you and your voice and in your character is going to bless a lot of people. A
That
lot
certainly
of
is.
young women are going to be able to be more comfortable talking about certain level of things that they've experienced, and the brothers too. But
Yeah.
it's just so powerful. These kinds of exchanges, it's not manipulated. It's not scripted.
No.
It's just humans talk to human beings sharing
Right.
truth of a life experience. And
Right.
that's what I think that's so powerful in today's climate, that we can just talk to each other, not at each other. I don't talk.
Right.
If you want to piss me off, talk at me. No, Jesus.
Hey, I can watch a video for that, or I can go to a lecture for that. No, this is about engaging.
This is really about the human spirit of helping each other, help each other live better, perhaps, learn something different, something else, something more.
Mhm.
All those wonderful things and we're creative people. She's a prolific artist as well. So I mean, there's so many levels, I think, of sharing and sharpening of one's iron that we can do in these kinds of safe, loving environments that a lot of people miss, I believe, in other ways because of all the barriers that are attached.
Yeah.
So thank you. But before we get too carried away, we understand that cholesterol and pressure and stress and not sleeping and all those things can contribute to either of these things, to some degree. In my case, I thought I was living large. I mean, I was doing all the stuff, and then bam, cholesterol. I'd heard of it, about it, but from all the dancing and all that stuff I used to do, it was not really an issue then.
Right.
But as we graduate, as we mature,
There we go.
yeah, as we mature, things change in the body that we have to either acknowledge or it's going to speak out. It's going to say, hey, I'm here, deal with me. And these are the kinds of things we want to just kind of pull back to the forefront in our consciousness. So I thank you, Antoinette, about sharing your experience with your aneurysm. Is there anything else you want to say about your experience there? Because now I want to move. We're going to segue into what I think is just as important as talking about stroke and how we can prevent stroke. We can't do it all in one sitting. So this will be a continuum, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. But she has something else that I want to allow her to share, if she doesn't mind. So do you have anything else about the aneurysm or stroke?
Well, just this. Um, Again, like you said, this is a long conversation that this is just the very beginning of.
Right.
But here's the thing, you woke up and there was a reason for that.
Absolutely.
And anything is really possible. And I do have to say the one thing the aneurysm gave me was fearlessness.
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
especially at that young age, you know, and
Yes,
everything was
yes.
kind of new and ooey. After that, I was like, you know what? There's nothing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that as I've, you know, as you said, matured, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've had to kind of remember that because sometimes that gets pushed by the wayside when, you know, the world kind of slaps you around, as it will do if you're blessed enough to still be here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's one of the things I kind of wanted to send away at the end of this little portion is just be fearless, do all that you can. And don't let the naysayers be the loudest voices that play back in your head.
Please.
Because there are plenty of them. Right?
Absolutely.
Only, you know, you and God.
Let us speak. I love it. No, we can't. We really have to fight that at all costs. Even if it's coming from your own thought. Like I kick Gilbert's butt all the time. Not today. That is not useful.
Not today.
That is not useful. What was that you said the other day about you're not being a mathematician?
Okay.
I love that.
A lot of stuff, Gil, but you know, I'm not a mathematician, but one thing I do know as a being in this universe is anytime you add negativity to any equation, you have taken something away. And so I always strive to be that positive, encouraging force if I can, so that anytime I've left an environment, I'd like to leave it better than when I found it. So
glory.
Easy math. Easy math.
Now, thank you. This is something that I believe is just so also important that we don't talk about much at all. Antoinette is dealing with a condition. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
That too can be a part of the stroke thing. You become hyper emotional sometimes. And I love it. I've always been hypersensitive. But she's with a season in her life, as bright and brilliant as she is, that cannot be avoided. It's something that is inevitable. And I'd like for you to share that with us and what your vision is for creating a safe platform to support and talk about that. Antoinette.
All right, well, the condition that Gil is referring to is I have glaucoma. And interestingly, I was diagnosed at a very early age, several years ago. And I am now going blind. I physically have no vision in this eye, and I've lost more than 80% in this eye. And it's because of this glaucoma. And so I thank you, Gil, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this a little bit here, because as I kind of am living with it and have been for now decades, the thing is there is no cure for glaucoma.
No, isn't that amazing?
No, the eventual end is blindness, because what happens is you get damage to your ocular nerve, and when that occurs, your vision goes away, as I've lost most of mine. And what I found in my research was that glaucoma is the #1 cause of blindness worldwide for people who were not born blind. When I found that out, that kind of blew my mind, because it was very difficult for me to find support groups like this one here, Gil, you've created for stroke survivors.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so I've decided that I'm going to start, because I mean, you know, I can look at TV and within minutes, I can turn on a channel that can show me how to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
I can watch a program about people who are abducted by aliens.
Yes, yes, yes.
I know how to kill both a vampire and a werewolf. But these conditions are not nearly as prevalent as glaucoma. We've got more people who actually suffer with glaucoma than who actually have to deal with vampires, you know, than who have actually been abducted by aliens, because I'm not trying to include anyone's experience, okay?
No, we're not taking that lightly.
No, I'm not. I'm really not. But I'm just saying, I can turn on my, I can go in there right now and on various streaming channels, even cable, probably even one of the upper channels on the network, I can find those tales.
Absolutely.
But yet I've not seen one ad that I can call that deals with glaucoma.
And that's amazing.
And I know these doctors are doing some fabulous work. In fact, I kind of joke that I'm a cyborg because the last open eye surgery I had, I actually got what was called a Revolt implant, which is part machine and part organic. So therefore I am by definition a cyborg.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Tonight you amaze me.
Full of surprises, man. That's why people keep coming back. Yeah, but I decided that, so that was the gap. And I was like, well, then I need to be the one to go ahead and, utilize the rest of my life up to this point, and be the one to begin this conversation. And yes, there are other groups out there, but I found that, a lot of those questions just about how does the medication affect your eyes, because we don't have a place where we can talk to other patients.
Right.
Right.
And that is so important.
And I gotta say, it's frightening too, because I have had to come to the realization that there are certain things I cannot do anymore. Like I cannot drive anymore. Much as I might like to, and I always will volunteer though. If someone needs a ride, I will volunteer, but no one will hand me the car keys.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's little things like that. Being in a very full retail space in a lot of ways is a little horrifying because of my vision.
Yes.
Things everywhere and the lights and just, So that's why I decided I'm actually about to finish the script on this piece called The Funny Thing About Going Blind, my glaucoma story.
Yes.
And the first thing I want to do is not one of it am doing is a piece about driving and now riding, because I cannot drive anymore. So I must ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, a little blurb about that, and then try to get some talk about this, and also, people to get behind this, because there is the Glaucoma Association, there's a Glaucoma Foundation, there's a lot of different groups that are doing really fabulous research and making strides. And so maybe one day they will have a cure and people will not have to lose their vision. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes people don't get this until they're, older. And I think perhaps that's why it doesn't get the attention. But I was diagnosed when I was in my mid-30s, and so again, it was a different kind of experience, and so again, I thank you for this.
No, you're very welcome. It's very important. Here's a question, because my sister has been dealing with cataracts. What is the difference between having cataracts on the eye and versus dealing with glaucoma?
That's actually a really good question. And since I spent a lot of time talking with my really great eye doctors, I actually do know the answer to that. A cataract is something that most of us are going to get in our lives. It has to do with either the lens of your eye being scratched, is due to sand and all that, and also calcium deposits that build up in our eyes. Whereas the aneurysm is a pressure thing. My eyes don't release the pressure that your eyes normally do with, like, tearing and all that. And so I've got really, without going through my whole medical history, several machines in each eye. And actually I would show you, except it's kind of gross. I don't want to gross people out, but my eyes are not round anymore. You can see there's lumps on my eyes where the machinery is. And the idea is that they need to release the pressure to hopefully save what is left of my vision, because
Yeah,
eventually it
wow.
does damage the ocular nerve. Whereas now a cataract is still an open eye surgery. Sometimes what they will do is like a lens replacement surgery where they just replace the lens of your eyeball.
Mhm.
Other times they will remove the actual calcium deposits in your eyes. So yeah, they're slightly different.
Wow.
But my doctor told me, pretty much assured everyone will at some point get cataracts.
Mm,
So
okay.
the really good question, because often they're kind of thought to be the same because they're dealing with
Right.
the
Well,
eye.
can't you go and just have them taken out? It's
Yeah.
not the same with
Well, I
glaucoma.
mean, no matter what, go get your eyes checked annually.
Right. See, yeah, these store-bought readers, which
Right.
I understand makes the sight even worse over time. So I'm making an appointment myself
Good
to
for you.
go, yeah, and get my eyes checked, get me some official readers or whatever it is that I need, because when we reach a certain maturity in our life, we have to take care of this mechanism
Oh yeah.
intimately.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially black men, excuse me, y'all, but I have to say it, we will run
Mhm.
before we go in. And I mean, we're getting better. Praise God, we're getting better. We're not so afraid to really start taking command of our health anymore.
Right. Right.
But it's still a hard sell. We've got to understand the virility of that,
Mm.
because it's sexy to be healthy.
Oh yes.
You know
Oh
what I mean?
yes.
And it feels, I mean, I loved the youth. We did all the stuff in our youth, but it feels good when you know that something is really working well
Hmm.
in your body at a certain age.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Not that age has a whole lot to do with things, but the maturing of the body does. Age is relative, sometimes depending on your DNA.
Yes.
But we've got to get over the uh, whatever that thing is, a stigma in Black men of not wanting to be on top of our health and not wanting to talk about certain, provisions in our health. Eh,
Yep.
I find, and I don't, I mean to speak for all Black men, but those that I have run into, those that have in my family and what have you, it's a conversation that is not so readily done. And hopefully this is a way to get people thinking differently about that.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Well, health, and here's the thing, years ago, people didn't live as long as we live now.
This is true.
So that's one thing. Uh, but just like, if you have a fine car, you're going to get it tuned up. You're going to get the oil change. You're going to, keep it clean,
Keep
right?
it. Yeah.
So, you update your phone every time there's a new version, right? The old one's working just fine, but you need the 24, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but why do we feel like our bodies, which is this giant, wonderful
Mm.
machine,
Isn't
right?
it
If you
amazing?
think about it, the way it works, right? Why don't we update it? Why don't we? And I'm not suggesting you do
Right,
right, but what
right.
I'm saying is we don't maintenance.
Yeah.
We don't think about that.
Think about it.
Yeah.
It's becoming, I think, more of a thing now because of those external factors, perhaps.
Yes. Yes.
But because we've been forced to kind of take another look at it, it's very timely, these kinds of sharing, these kinds of anecdotes, I like to say, because it's not all about just one avenue, what the
Oh, no.
doctor is saying or what the scientists are saying. It's a combination of sifting through all of that information, all that stuff, so you know what's fallacy and what's really real, and
Right.
then you can make well-informed decisions about our health. I don't want you to do it because Gibbons says it. I
Right.
don't think Antoinette wants you, well, maybe she does. Want you and maybe I do too. Let me not be so forward.
Well, we want a
But
little bit of
do it.
credit. We want a little bit of
Right.
credit. Right.
Do it because it's only going to help you live better. It's only gonna, you know, so we've got to do it. And so this is a kickoff point where I hope we can continue to just grow and expand and have different conversations and different get a panel here, I mean, I just hope it grows and grows. God bless it.
Well, I do want to bring up something else too, Gil, because it sounds like we're about to close, and I do want to kind of add this. Okay. We've been talking about our physical bodies.
Yes.
And, this is the machinery, this is the thing that, needs to be healthy. But let's also not forget, our spiritual bodies.
Come on here now.
Okay, because that is, as I think back now, it's been a few years, but as I think back, my spiritual health had to be intact.
Yes.
And that too has been a journey. We're this great, vast, beautiful body thing, but we're not just our physical body. We're mind, we're body, we're spirit. We are part of this universe. And yes. In that, saying back to my mathematical equation, I need to be positive, not force, but at least experience. I might irritate you because you don't want to be positive, but that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay. I'm gonna sparkle on and then I'll go away.
Right. And some of that is gonna, if that scent will be on your shirt somewhere, it's gonna follow you a little bit ways. It's gonna follow you. And you're either gonna get, let me watch this, I hate that smell. Or it's gonna get in there one way or another. Mm-hmm. And I love the power of that. That's the spirit. It's amazing. So when we find ourselves getting down on ourselves or on your neighbor or whomever, use a feather. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Use a feather, because the most that can happen is that you get their attention. And perhaps you can plant another seed.
Right.
But if we keep getting bully clubs and beating us, the flagellants to do, I don't know, it's a harder sell.
Yeah.
People want to be embraced now. Now, I'm not talking about the foolishness, because some people love a certain kind of attention.
Yeah.
And it's okay if that works for you. But what I'm, and Antoinette, I believe, what we're hoping to see happen is that people have a safe platform.
Yes.
Where they can come together, talk, grow, help each other develop some new ideas, some new nuances, some new life methods or standards of being that are universal, that anybody can listen to and take what you can use from it, build upon it, and go on. Yeah. And I know there are a lot of challenged people who have survived stroke and or aneurysm. So it's important for us to let these people know that you are not wasted.
Right.
You are still viable because you are here. So let's start there, as Antoinette said earlier, that authorized mantra, I love it. Let's start there. And then little by little, we can find, hopefully, something, some mantra, some story, some philosophy, something that can begin to awaken those other nuances. So we're starting to really, really rebuild ourselves, both physically, morally, whatever that means to you, and spiritually. I'm so glad you brought that up. I don't want to start sounding like a guru. So
well, I didn't either, but I couldn't not bring that one very important aspect up. It's about finding joy. And what do we know? Where there is joy, there is God.
It is.
And so every day, I'm responsible for my joy.
I am too. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And when you really understand the power of that, Antoinette, it's a life changer.
Oh, man.
It is. I mean, you become like, how oil is in water? That stuff just kind of, it misses you. And the enemy is not happy.
Right.
Everybody.
Oh, see, here we go.
So anyway, I love this. I don't mean to cut it short, but I want to be sure that it's something we can kind of mold into something I can post. If it gets too busy, if it's too long, they'll stop me from posting. But this is just one beginning segment of Gil and Antoinette talking, sharing, the kaleidoscope of sharing. The kaleidoscope is full of all these little pieces. When you look into it, and that beautiful, it's a beautiful thing. I love you, Antoinette.
Love you, Gil.
Thank
you so much.
Your spirit is so beautiful.
Thank you.
And you are a living angel. You are just a miracle child. And there are incredible things that you have yet to do. I really believe that. And I thank God that He allowed us to connect right now in this season to start on this journey. And so give Ken a big old high five for me. I look forward to meeting him and hugging his neck too.
Oh, yes.
Forward to us physically hanging at you. So we got to get some watermelon or something.
Something.
Dublin, yeah. So, okay, I know that. I'm going to hold you to that. I just love you. I just love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gil.
And, I look forward to seeing this posted. I pray that I can get it right and that some people can really eat from this wonderful table. Okay. I love you. Thank you so much. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Okay. All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Guys, this has been Conversation with Brother Gil and Mrs. Antoinette McDonald Ellis. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be others coming. Peace and much love. Au revoir. I love it. Yay. Okay.